When I was about 10 years old, I found out how babies were made. After the shock, and it was a shock, my next concern was I legitimate? My neighbors, Gordon and Raymond, they swore they were legitimate. They were sure of it. But was I? I had no idea. I could hardly go to my mother and say, am I legitimate? But what I could do was ask to see my birth certificate, explaining that my friends had seen theirs, so I should see mine. And my mother was proud and excited that I was interested in that sort of thing and beautifully pulled it out for me. And as I scanned it, I said, oh yes, I was born in late November 43, and they were married in July 42. So I could boast to my friends that I too was legitimate. But I noticed something else on the birth certificate that stopped me in my tracks. Next to my father's name under occupation, it said, assistant cabinet maker. Boy, that had a ring to it, didn't it? Assistant cabinet maker. It wasn't a one-word profession like lawyer or doctor. It was 3 words, and 2 of them were hyphenated. The puzzling thing was that I'd never seen my father pick up a hammer, let alone a nail. But then I sort of thought it just faded in the back of my mind. I'd forget all about it. But I was wrong. A couple of years, or next year rather, I graduated from my elementary school to my secondary school, where the accent here was on academics, French, German, Latin. But to make sure that we didn't grow up to be unemployable know-it-alls, we all had to take one practical course. And in remembering assistant cabinet maker, I chose woodwork. Well, actually I didn't choose it, that was the only thing you could do. So our woodwork master was a man called Harrison, who was a little bit like an old cabinet himself, large and stodgy. And he had a voice that seemed to come from the back of the hall. It wasn't that it was so loud, but it had a haunted quality to it. Now, first class, he picked up a piece of wood, maybe 2 feet long and a couple of inches around, and said, I want you all to make a coat hanger for your mother or your father. And he gave us each a piece of wood like this, and some sandpaper and a saw, and we set to work. And for the next 45 minutes, all you heard was a rasping of the saw and the hissing of sandpaper, and a lot of as we blew away the sawdust. When the bell rang 45 minutes later, 2 enterprising boys turned in their assignment. I was not one of them. Now, in between that class and the next one, a week later, I was in a play at my youth center. I only had a few lines, but afterwards people said, you know, you were pretty good at that, you should do more of it. But assistant cabinet maker was now embedded in my brain. So I just said, well, thank you, and that was it. Come the class, I was first in line, and for the next 45 minutes, I didn't do so much sanding, but there was, so much sawing rather, but there was a lot of sanding and shaping, that sort of thing. But by the end of the class, I'd still not finished. Still, I was determined the next class to be right there at the beginning, and so I was. Halfway through the class, Harrison said, will all those boys, L. Bling, please bring their assignment to the front desk? I gave my coat hanger a final little bit of shine here, shaving here, and then I carried it up to Harrison, who picked it up, held it up to the light and said, is someone in your family deformed? It was at that moment that I decided to become an actor.